Hey there, Orca, 4th grade. Are you guys ready for your next read aloud? It's Thursday, don't you know? Let's get to getting, okay? The book that we've been trying to read is The City of Ember. Yeah, if you remember, our main two characters are Lena and Dawn. You know what Lena is? Yeah, you're right. She's the messenger. I'm sorry. I can't do that accent anymore, kids. All right. So we were talking about Lena and her obsession with thinking about that other city that exists and what it would be like and how she's drawn so many pictures of it on a wall in her apartment, and how I kind of wish I had some of those pictures drawn on my wall. So if you guys want to draw a couple of pictures of Ember, maybe I can hang them here. That'd be cool. Yeah, so we were talking about Lena's exploration, and we're going to pick up where we left off, which was in the middle of chapter 2, and then we'll finish chapter 2 for today, okay? All right. So still, Lena wanted the other city to exist. In her imagination, it was so beautiful, and it seemed so real. Sometimes she longed to go there and take everyone in Ember with her. But she wasn't thinking about the other city now. Today, she was happy to be right where she was. She sat Poppy on the couch. If you remember, Poppy is her baby sister. Wait there, she said. She went to the kitchen where there was an electric stove and a refrigerator that no longer worked and was used to store glasses and dishes so Poppy couldn't get into them. Above the refrigerator were shelves holding most pots and jars, more spoons and knives, a wind-up clock that Granny always forgot to wind, and a long row of cans. Lena tried to keep the cans in alphabetical order so she could find what she wanted quickly, but Granny always messed them up. Now, she saw, there were beans at the end of the row and tomatoes at the beginning. She picked up a can labeled baby drink and a jar of boiled carrots, opened them, poured the liquid into a cup and the carrots into a little dish, and took these back to the baby on the couch. Poppy dribbled baby drink down her chin. She ate some of her carrots and poked others into the couch cushions. For a moment, Lena felt almost perfectly happy. There was no need to think about the fate of the city right now. Tomorrow, she'd be a messenger. She wiped the orange goop off Poppy's chin. Don't worry, she said. Everything will be all right. The messenger's headquarters was on Clothing Street, not far from the back of Gathering Hall. When Lena arrived the next morning, she was greeted by Messenger Captain Elias Fleury, a bony woman with pale eyes and hair the color of dust. Our new girl, said Captain Fleury to the other messengers. A cluster of 9 people smiled and nodded at Lena. I have your jacket right here, said the captain. She handed Lena a red jacket like the one all the messengers wore. It was only a little too large. From the clock tower of the gathering hall came a deep, reverberating bong. 8 o'clock, cried Captain Fleury. She waved a long arm. Take your stations. As the captain sounded as the clock sounded 7 more times, the messengers scattered in all directions. The captain turned to Lena. Your station, she said, is Garden Square. Lena nodded and started off, but the captain caught her by the collar. I haven't told you the rules, she said. She held up a knobby finger. 1. When a customer gives you a message, repeat it back to make sure you have it right. 2. Always wear your red jacket so people can identify you. 3. Go as fast as possible. Your customers pay 20 cents for every message, no matter how far you have to take it. Lena nodded. I always go fast, she said. 4, the captain went on. Deliver a message. Only to the person it's meant for, no one else. Lena nodded again. She bounced a little on her toes, eager to get going. Captain Fleury smiled. Go, she said, and Lena went off. She felt strong and speedy and sure-footed. She glanced at her reflection as she ran past the window of a furniture repair shop. She liked the look of her long, dark hair flying out behind her, her long legs in their black socks, and her flapping red jacket. Her face, which had never seemed especially remarkable, looked almost beautiful because she was so happy. As soon as she came into Garden Square, a voice cried, Messenger! Her first customer. It was only Natty Prine calling to her from the bench where he always sat. This goes to Reverend Pearson, 18 Salverton Square, he said.
Bend down.
She bent down so her ear was close to his whiskery mouth. The old man said in a slow, hoarse voice,
Our stove is broke. Don't come for dinner. Repeat.
Lena repeated the message.
Good,
said Natty Prime. He gave Lena 20 cents and she ran across the city to Silverton Square. There she found Reverend Pearson, also sitting on a bench. She recited the message to him.
Oh, turnip head, he growled. Lazy old flea face.
He just doesn't like
cooking. No reply.
Lena ran back to Garden Square, passing a group of believers on the way. They were standing in a circle holding hands, singing one of their cheerful songs. It seemed to Lena there were more believers than ever these days. What they believed in she didn't know, but it must make them happy. They always were smiling. Her next customer turned out to be Mrs. Polster, the teacher of the 4th year class. In Miss Polster's class, they memorized passages from the Book of the City of Ember every week. Miss Polster had charts on the walls for everything, with everyone's name listed. If you did something right, she made a green dot by your name. If you did something wrong, she made a red dot. What you need to learn, children, she always said in her resonant, precise voice, is the difference between right and wrong in every area of life. And once you learn the difference, here she would stop and point to the class, and the class would finish the sentence. You must always choose the right. In every situation, Miss Polster knew what the right choice was. Just like Miss French. Now here was Miss Polster again, looming over Lena and pronouncing her message. To Antoinette Lafronde, 39 Hum Street, as follows, she said. My confidence in you has been seriously diminished since I heard about the disreputable activities in which you engaged on Thursday night. Please repeat. It took Lena 3 times to get it right. Red dot for me, she said. Miss Polster did not seem to find this amusing. Lena had 19 customers the first morning. Some of them had ordinary messages. I can't come on Tuesday. Buy a pound of potatoes on your way home. Please come and fix my front door. Others had messages that made no sense to her at all, like Miss Polster's, but it didn't matter. The wonderful part about being a messenger was not the messages, but the places she got to go. She could go into the houses of people she didn't know and hidden alleyways and little rooms in the backs of stores. In just a few hours, she discovered all kinds of strange and interesting things. For instance, Miss Sample, the mender, had to sleep on her couch because her entire bedroom, almost up to the ceiling, was crammed with clothes to be mended. Dr. Philena Tower had a skeleton of a person hanging against her living room wall, its bones all held in place with black strings. I studied it, she said when she saw Lena staring. I have to know how people are put together. At a house on Colway Street, Luna delivered a message to a worried-looking man whose living room was completely dark. I'm saving on light bulbs, the man said, and when Lena took a message to the Hand Cafe, she learned that on certain days the back room was used as a meeting place for people who liked to converse about great subjects. Do you think an invisible being is watching over us all the time? She heard someone ask. Perhaps, answered someone else. There was a long silence, and yet again, perhaps not. All of it was interesting. She loved finding things out, and she loved running. And even by the end of the day, she wasn't tired. Running made her feel strong and big-hearted, and made her love the places she ran through and the people whose messages she delivered. She wished she could bring all of them the good news they so desperately wanted to hear. Late in the afternoon, a young man came to her, walking with a sort of sideways lurch. He was an odd-looking person. He had a very long neck with a bump in the middle and teeth so big they looked as if they were trying to escape from his mouth. His black, bushy hair stuck out from his head in untidy tufts. "I have a message for the mayor." "At the gathering hall," he said. He paused to let the importance of this be understood. "The mayor," he said. "Did you get that?" "I got it," said Lena. "All right. Listen carefully. Tell him delivery at 8 from Looper." Repeat it back. "Delivery at 8 from Looper," Lena repeated. It was an easy message. "All right. No answer required." He handed her 20 cents and she sprinted away. The gathering hall occupied one entire side of the Harkins Square, which was the city's central plaza. The square was paved with stone. It had a few benches bolted to the ground here and there, as well as a couple of kiosks for notices. Wide steps led up to the gathering hall, and flat columns framed its big door. The mayor's office was in the gathering hall. So were the offices of the clerks who kept track of which buildings had broken windows, what street lamps needed repair, and the number of people in the city. There was the office of the timekeeper, who was in charge of the town clock, and there were offices of guards who enforced the laws of Ember, now and then putting pickpockets or people who got into fights into the prison room. A small one-story structure with a sloping roof that jutted out from one side of the building. Lena ran up the steps and through the door into the broad hallway. On the left was a desk, and at the desk sat a guard, Barton Snood, assistant guard, said a badge on his chest. He was a big man with wide shoulders, brawny arms, and a thick neck. But his head looked as if it didn't belong on his body. It was small and round and topped with a fuzz of extremely short hair. His lower jaw jutted out and moved a little from side to side, as if he were chewing on something. When he saw Lena, his jaw stopped moving for a moment, and his lips curled upward in a very small smile. "Good day," he said. "What business brings you here today?" "I have a message for the mayor." Very good," Barton Snood heaved himself to his feet. "Step this way." He led Lena down the corridor and opened a door marked reception room. "Wait here, please," he said. "The mayor is in his basement office on private business, but he will be up shortly." Lena went inside. "I'll notify the mayor," said Barton Snood. "Please have a seat. The mayor will be right with you, or pretty soon." He left, closing the door behind him. A second later, the door opened again, and the guard's small, fuzzy head reappeared. "What is the message?" he asked. "I have to give it to the mayor in person," said Lena. Of course," said the guard. The door closed again. He doesn't seem very sure about things, Lena thought. Maybe he's new at his job. The reception room was shabby, and Lena could tell that it had once been impressive. The walls were dark red, the brownish patches where the paint was peeling away. In the right hand wall was a closed door. An ugly brown carpet lay on the floor, and on it stood a large armchair covered in itchy-looking red material, and several smaller chairs. A small table held a teapot and some cups, and a larger table in the middle of the room displayed a copy of the book of the City of Ember, lying open as if someone were going to read from it. Portraits of all the mayors of the city since the beginning of time hung on the walls, staring solemnly. Lost my place. Had to check the time. Sorry, friends. Staring solemnly from behind pieces of old window glass. Lena sat in the big armchair and waited. No one came. She got up and wandered around the room. She bent over the book of the City of Ember and read a few sentences. "The citizens of Ember may not have luxuries, but the foresight of the builders who filled the storerooms at the beginning of time had ensured that they will always have enough, and enough is all that a person of wisdom needs." Wise words. She flipped a few pages. "The gathering hall clock," she said. She read, "measuring the hours of night and day. It must never be allowed to run down. Without it, how would we know when to go to work and when to go to school? How would the light director know when to turn the lights on and when to turn them off? It is the job of the timekeeper to wind the clock every week and to place the date sign in Harkin Square every day. The timekeeper must perform these duties faithfully. Lena knew that not all timekeepers were as faithful as they should be. She heard of one some years ago who often forgot to change the date sign so that it might say Wednesday, week 38, year 2027 for several days in a row. There had been timekeepers who forgot to wind the clock so that it might stand at noon or at midnight for hours at a time, causing a very long day or a very long night. The result was that no one really knew anymore exactly what day of the week it was or exactly how many years it had been since the building of the city. They called this the year 241, but it might have been 245 or 239 or 250. As long as the clock's deep boom rang out every hour and the lights went off and on and off more or less regularly, it didn't seem to matter. Lena left the book and examined the pictures of the mayors. The seventh mayor, Pod Morhoth, was her she didn't know how many greats, grandfather. He looked quite dreary, Lena thought. His cheeks were long and hollow, his mouth turned down at the corners, and there was a lost look in his eyes. The picture she liked best was of the fourth mayor, Jane Larkin, who had a serene smile and fuzzy black hair. Still, no one came. She heard no sounds from the hallway. Maybe they'd forgotten her. Lena went over to the closed door in the right-hand hall. She pulled it open and saw stairs going up. Maybe while she waited, she'd just see where they went. She started upward. At the top of the first flight was a closed door. Carefully, she opened it. She saw another hallway and more closed doors. She shut the door and kept going. Her footsteps sounded loud on the wood, and she was afraid someone would hear her and come and scold her. No doubt she was not supposed to be there, but no one came, and so she climbed on, passing another closed door. And friends, we are going to stop right there. This is a super long chapter. However, I'm loving it, and I'm super excited to figure out what she sees in the mayor's office. If you have any predictions on what you think she's going to find in the mayor's office, please comment below. I would love to hear it. All right, thanks, friends. Happy Thursday. Have a beautiful day.